it was a special situation, but it was one of those things that test your mettle. And when we come to abortion, when we come to anything we're going to go through in D.C., you go up there, you're going to be tempted. And you better be able to stand and hold strong.
This morning, we're privileged to have Dr. Randy with us. Randy was raised in Kingfisher on a cattle farm and attended OSU in 1984 with an economics major, and then went to medical school at OSU in 1994, and then he did his residency in Tulsa from 1998 to 2001. He has a family practice right now in Cushing that he's been since 2001, which would make that 21 years. He's married, 31 years of marriage, and 2 sons, 24 years old and 21 years old. He's currently continuing to raise cattle and practice his medical practice full time. And as you know, Cushing, where he's at, is there's a 90 million barrel capacity storage for oil there. 20% of America's oil reserves are in Cushing, Oklahoma. And so Randy is running for United States Senate, and we are honored to have him this morning. Could you put your hands together and welcome Dr. Randy Grellner.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Can you hear this?
Yes.
Okay, good. I have a tendency to drop this thing, so, it's a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate you calling and letting us come a week early. I'm going to kind of go through a little bit because I want to get through some details here, and then we'll get into kind of some question and answers, if that's okay. But I'm not part of the political operative groups around this state. The only public office I've held is school board. And that was a great opportunity. And I was on there for about 6 years. When my kids graduated, I felt like it was time to let somebody else take over. And I'm proud, though, that I'm not part of the political system because of what it's turned into. In 2014, I was totally disgusted where we were as a country. And I called my, political mentor, Tom Coburn, and I said, I'm coming to D.C., would you sit down with me? And he said, absolutely. And so I we flew up there, and he got caught up in some meetings, but we talked afterwards for about an hour. And this is what's going on with healthcare, what's going on with this country, as we all know, is a big spiritual battle. So, being an outsider has been very interesting. Let's go back to the last administration. He was an outsider, but he made tremendous, groundbreaking decisions in this country that moved us in the right direction. And those have been reversed by the current administration. Nobody's perfect in that position, I understand, but there has to be, obviously core values that you have. Tom Coburn, I think, had most all answers, which was no spending, no more taxes. Let's deal with what we have here. And nobody would listen to the remedy up there because we're human and the remedy hurts, right? Yeah, and what we're doing is we're plundering our kids' treasure. That's what we're doing. And so I think the next senator needs to come from private business. I think they need to have run business, been successful in business, and we need to focus on 3 things initially, and we'll talk about some others. But we have energy independence in this country has to be a top issue. Number 2 is economy, how we turn this thing around. But these all have financial undertones to them because we're on rocky ground in this country. And then healthcare, and specifically rural healthcare, and I'll tell you why here in a second. But let's just talk about energy independence. In 2019, this country was energy independent. We were exporting. First time in modern history. That's all vanished. And we're now importing about 10% of our needs from Russia. Okay? And so we have to get the Keystone Pipeline. It has to be opened up. I know a senator can't do it, but they can make a lot of noise. Okay? We have to export natural gas, unacceptable. We're bringing in this crude from Russia. It's 80% worse as far as emissions than natural gas. And we're just bottling up this natural gas. And then the other thing is we have to open back up, and we just saw Alaska, all the federal land shut down. We have to explore. This country has to be energy dependent. And it is truly, it's a national security crisis. If we don't do it, we're going to be controlled by Saudi Arabia, OPEC, and Russia. Okay? So, and Venezuela is getting in the game now. So, second is the economy. Okay? And this economy in the state is all petroleum. It all hinges on petroleum. Okay? Agriculture, plastics, all the things. So, and it's fine. Let's own it. Okay? That's a great thing about this state is we have tons of natural resources. So, but we have to protect the petroleum industry. And you see these ups and downs in the petroleum industry, and a lot of it is because of labor, right? I mean, I take care of a ton of people that work in the industry, and you see, you see these downturns in the economy, and the labor leaves, and they go to other jobs, and then it takes years to get them back. So this up and down of this, petroleum. So we have to get this economy straightened out, and we may at some point have to incentivize oil and gas companies to keep them where they're producing, because we need a steady source of oil and gas in this country. And the last is healthcare, rural healthcare, which I'm involved in, but it all swings together. And that was what I was disgusted about in 2014. Our hospitals, we didn't have an MRI anymore. We didn't have this. We didn't have, it was just, they were just plucking all the things out of our hospital. And we were shipping all these people to Oklahoma City, Tulsa, that could be treated locally. And so they took the tools away to be able to do that. And part of that, and Senator Coburn told me, was they want to centralize us, okay? Get everything central, you control it, right? And that's what happened during the pandemic. Everybody ended up in a major tertiary facility. Family got locked out for 3 weeks, 2 weeks, whatever the number was, and people died. So I've been involved in it, and I want to tell you, rural healthcare's biggest problem is regulatory. And I've opened 2 clinics there. I still have those running, and thank you very much. And so we had to hire the floor of Devon Tower with accountants and attorneys to open the thing up. It's ridiculous, So we have to change rural healthcare in this country, and we have to straighten that out, because that'll take the focus and that'll take the stress off of the hospitals and tertiary facilities. So, and I'm really the only person that has any idea of rural healthcare in this race, and I think that's going to be key in the future of this state. So those are the things. The other thing is, when you get down to it, I owe nobody. And I owe God, but I don't owe anybody in this world from the standpoint of I don't have any strings attached to me. I don't have any special interests, I don't have any lobbyists. This campaign was paid for by friends, family, and really my wife and I sat down. I was born poor, and I'm proud of that. I'm not complaining, okay? And we have been overly blessed. And in that office, I have 5 World War II veterans that ran up Normandy Beach or were in the Pacific taking bullets for this country, and they don't understand where we're at. And I get it. And I told my wife, I said, we don't have a lot, but I can put together, well, it's a lot from where I came from, but her and I put together $1 million and put it into this campaign personally. That's all we got, cash. And I said, this is thanks. If you look at Luke 16:11, it says, if you can't handle treasure down here, then we're going to do a real treasure, right? That's right. The country hadn't handled it, and I told her we're going to put our treasure to work to try to turn this country around for our kids, grandkids, and the veterans that have fought for us. And that's kind of, if we lose it all, it's okay. I mean, I plan on working until I fall over dead or, end up somewhere and don't know my name anymore, and that's okay, So, but I think we can improve this energy independence. We've done it. It's the first time in modern history we've been there, but we can do it. We're right there on the edge of it. This economy, this interest rate's 8.3, it's really probably 10 or 11. We all know that. And that hurts nothing more than the poor and the people that are disenfranchised from the rest of this community, the rest of this society. That hurts them worse than any of us. And I think we can fix healthcare in this state. The other thing about healthcare, and I'll say right quick, is you saw compassion leave healthcare in the last 2 years, and it's disgusting. Okay, 90% of the physicians in this state, in this country, wouldn't see people in their office because they didn't want to see them because of COVID. It was all done over a telecom. You can't have a relationship over. I do telemed sometimes because I know them, right? And if they're in a jam and they're in Arkansas and some doctor won't take care of them, I will see them, okay? But that's not the way you do business in this. You have to put your hands on them, you have to love them, and you have to enjoy being around them. But I've been doing it for 21 years. I have the best career. This is service going to D.C. I'm not going to quit practicing medicine because I love it. And the last 5 or 6 years, even more, because 21 years, they're friends, they're not patients. Right. And so, so I think we can improve all those things, and I think this state and country, I think faith is going to play the biggest role in this because we have to start sacrificing personally if we're ever going to make this country great again. So I want to talk a little bit. He gave me like 20 minutes. I'm not going to bore you up here that long, but I do want to talk about abortion. This issue, it's on all of our hearts. It's heavy, and everybody gets up here and they're going to say, "I'm pro-life," and I get that, okay, and that's great, and we need that, but you have to be able to fight the battle, and the battle is, and I've got several kids running around in my practice that we were able to sit down with this, crying 16, 17-year-old girl and say, "Hold it. I know you're emotional, but let's talk through this because you knew them prior, you know them, when they come in." And we have those kids running through the practice now, and that's special. That is a very special thing, yeah. And so one of the biggest things I got into, and one of the things that kind of defined, I knew where I stood, right? But when do you stand up and say, "This is it, I'm not taking it"? We had a case, and it's been several years ago. It's been about 7 years ago. And the lady was carrying a baby that was not going to make it. Okay, had terminal illness, anencephaly. I don't know if anybody knows, but anyhow. So I get called on a Friday, and they said, "We're going to induce her on Monday at 30 weeks so that we can get this kid out of her." And I'm like, okay. I mean, I've never had to deal with that. I mean, I take care of a lot of peds at the hospital. And I said, "We're going to do what?" And they go, "Well, this thing's not going to make it." And so, you're stuck with that decision, right? And so that weekend I called a friend of mine who's a neonatologist here in Tulsa. And I said, this is not right. And he goes, "Well, thank goodness somebody's thinking about the afterlife." I'm telling him, I've got a reel already that he's going to play when I get up there, and I've got some problems in it, and I don't want to add any more. But it was somebody I respected, and I mean, it's how God leads you, right? I mean, he picks up the phone and he says, "Well, thank goodness you're thinking about this," and so we went in. And the doctor that was going to deliver and I sat down. I said, "I'm not comfortable doing this. I'm not going to do it." And he said, "Well, will you go talk to her?" And I said, "Okay." I had never met her before. And I went in, the nurse is taking me in. I went off to another room and I kneeled down and I said, "Tell me what to say," right? And you go in there and this lady's going, "I got a monster in my belly. You got to get it out." And I'm like, "You don't know that. None of us. I mean, God's on his throne. He can change anything at any time." And she went on to go till 38 weeks. She went into natural labor, had the baby, had about 6 hours to meet the baby. And it was a special situation, but it was one of those things that test your mettle. And when we come to abortion, and we come to anything we're going to go through in D.C., you go up there, you're going to be tempted. And you better be able to stand and hold strong. So it was one of God's, it was a test he put in front of me, and it helped me understand the issue way better. And so any questions or anything out there that anybody may? Yes. Yeah, the baby ended up passing away at about 6-8 hours. And it was, but you know, the neonatologist told me some of these lived 13, 15 years, right? So, and that's how God works on all of us, right? He puts an event in our life and sees how we deal with it, you know? So if women that have had miscarriages devastates them. And, you know, as a man, you don't think about that till you've been through it with multiple friends. And you think about what abortion's going to do to somebody to willingly take this embryo or egg, you know, this, and you think this is a disaster long-term for these people mentally, right? The baby, obviously, it's a life. We know that. We're defined at, you know, at conception. But what's this going to do to her? And then she's going to have to go through the forgiveness process, which she may never get through, right? That's the problem. These people never get through it. So, and anybody have it? Yes, I'm sorry. Well, I about lost my job. The federal mandate came out in September, August, somewhere. I think it was August. Mercy folds like a paper bag on all those poor people in Oklahoma City. My wife's best friend is in my wedding, works at Mercy, second accounting in line, awesome employee. CEO calls and said, just take the shot. She said, I'm not taking it. She lost her job, still unemployed. And so I said, I'm not taking it. I had COVID, number one, but number two, it's free choice. This is, if you want to take it, I'm fine with that, you know? I mean, yeah. And so it was December 6th we had to have the shot, I think, and December 3rd they came in and they go, are you going to take it? And I said, nope. I said, I told you I wasn't. And they said, well, what are you going to do Monday? And I said, well, you want me to clean my desk out Sunday, or do you want me to come in Monday morning? Because I'm not going to be vaccinated, right? And they're like, you would really do that? And I go, yes, it's not worth it, okay? So I left, and then I'd been in touch with O'Connor, you know, our Attorney General, who was a champion, by the way, for us, okay? I'm going to tell you, he's a champion. He's getting beat up, and I'm not for sure. I've met with him, and I've met with him several times. I knew him 10 years ago. We had a case that we took to him, and he was a gentleman through the whole thing. But he was a champion for all of us healthcare workers, and we got the injunction filed. He's got it shut down. And then, and I wrote, 1,000 exemptions for people, you know. So, and I was also, we used hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin in the practice. People agree, don't agree, but I know it works. So, yeah. And that was another test because, you know, people were ridiculed, you know, and it's fine. If you think it works, and I tell people, if you're in the practice of medicine, you think it works and you're not using it, you're not a doctor, okay? You're not, you have no conviction, and I don't really have much use for that. But yeah, the vaccine it is free choice. And it's shoving it in a 5-year-old kid or less, shoving it in an 18-year-old or less, I can't justify. So, oh yeah, no, free choice. They don't work. If you get a pretty one, I guess they can make it look better. Probably help me up here right now.
What kind of practice are you in?
Yeah, I'm in family practice. And that's kind of cool. You see them from. C-section. I don't deliver, but I'm right there with them, and we see them all the way through. I think I got a 103-year-old. So, yeah. I work for a group, but I have a private practice also that's a wellness center. in Cushing that 3 years ago we left one of the major hospitals here, went to a smaller group, and we had started an urgent care in Cushing 7 or 8 years ago, and that thing it's all God thing, right? Comes out the first couple of years and we're struggling, and I'm looking at everybody, because it was my idea. And they're like, we're going to make payroll this week. I said, yeah, if you all write a $5,000 check, we'll be able to make payroll. And after 2 years, the thing turned around, and then we sold that when we moved with Stillwater. They wanted to have it, Stillwater Medical Center. And they've been good to me. My problem, or my disappointment with the healthcare structure we have right now is, did anybody hear of one of them filing against the mandates? They just folded, right? And we're in we are so socialized in medicine right now. And so the ones that want to step out and do something different, they're going to get ridiculed. They may lose their job, but you got to be willing to just walk away. I mean, it's not, it's not much of a choice if you don't sacrifice. So, yes.
I come from a family of doctors. My dad was a doctor. My 4 brothers were doctors. My mother was a nurse. I'm going to tear this up. And they said, why are you not doing it? I said, well, I've never taken a vaccine except for the polio vaccine. And he said, well, you need to take this one. And I said, I don't want to take it. I said, I don't think enough's been proved about it. And he said, well, you need to follow the science. And so we're condemning.
Yeah. And that's the compassion side of it we all lost. Or a lot of them lost, right? They didn't care.
But what do you say
What?
to a medical expert?
Yeah. Well, I say, number one, that all new immunizations, especially with new technology, take 12 years to make it to, okay? It takes 12 years for a new technology in the vaccine world to make it to, the market. This one now they've been doing some stuff, but it was a 6-8 month deal. Number one, give us the data, okay? We can't follow the science when we don't have the data, okay? That's where we're at, right? Number two is this will be controversial, but they're a failure. Vaccines are a failure. This set of vaccines has been a total failure, okay? And I'm on the state board of, I just got appointed to the state board of health, and I just had we had a good scientific debate in the last board meeting, and it was good. It was friendly, right? We can disagree, but don't have to all scream at each other, right? And they can't answer the questions that I'm asking, okay? And it's not that it's indoctrination, right? That's what we're seeing in schools. And I told my nurse practitioner who's been with me 19 years, at the end of the day, be glad God opened your eyes and ears that you saw this, okay? And pray for them. That's the only way we're going to change it, So, thanks. That may get me fired, actually. But I mean, it's okay. It just is what it is.
Good morning.
Yes. Oh, the opponent. So I'm running for Inhoff's vacated seat, which is really why I went up there in 14. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, the primary will be June 28th. Correct. Well, there's 13 in there. 13. So there'll be a runoff, most likely, unless somebody gets 50%, which is always possible, but I doubt. So, but yeah, and I don't know them. I've met a couple of them, and they're nice guys, and there's a female in there too. I haven't seen her out, but they're nice guys. So, one of them the other day said, "There's my competition." I said, "I think we're all on the same side of trying to make America better, aren't we?" And he said, "Yeah." So,
Doctor, I got a question on energy
Sure.
independence. I spent 20 years in the Air Force. I retired, and then while I was in the Air Force, I hauled fuel at night, and then I just stepped into it. And I've been hauling fuel for the last 29 years, and I just retired last year. But I got a phone call yesterday from my boss, And I don't know if many of you realize that Fort Smith and Rogers are out of diesel fuel, have been for a week.
Wow.
And I'm having to haul fuel. We're so far behind, there's 2-hour lines waiting to get diesel fuel over to Fort Smith and areas so that our country can run. People do not realize the trucking industry is the backbone of our economy. And when you start charging $5 a gallon to a truck that gets 6 and 8 miles per gallon, and the cost that each company is picking up, it is uncalled for. Diesel fuel is a lower grade of fuel than gasoline. People don't realize that. And yet it's higher than gasoline. And if you go back to the 70s when I was hauling, I remember people complaining at diesel being 46 cents a gallon. But here's what my concern is. And you nailed it when you said we were energy independent 19 months ago. And each individual in the state needs to stand up, because I don't know how many of you have been filling up your gas tanks and seeing what that's taking away from your food, your rent. Yep. And this is man-made. This is not, we are not out of fuel. America has more fuel than we know what to do with. But here's the thing, guys. We're all Christians, and we can stay in our prayer closets, but we can stay in our prayer closets, hear what God has to say, and stand up. Make a stand. You cannot do it from your living room. And you've got kids, and I've got grandkids that we are responsible for. And they are growing up in a nation that doesn't know the nation that we did. It wasn't perfect, but we were a nation that was a people of courage. And we've got to stop being so divided. We've got to stand up and put a stop to this. Thank you.
I mean, my comment would be you shut down Keystone, you shut down the Michigan 5. You know what you're doing, right? And now we have meat packing plants that are getting destroyed. We have chicken virus going everywhere. I mean, this is all, it's a pretty good, there are no coincidences, right? Yeah.
I mean, what are the American people? How do you tell us not to be fearful, not to worry that things are under control, or are they under control?
I always think of Hezekiah caught up, right? And the Syrians are around him, and he's praying, and, all of a sudden you get 185,000 of them knocked down, and Hezekiah's out of his bird cage, right? So there's always hope because we have God, and our God is way tougher than these people, okay? And but I think it becomes God's decision. I always say it's God's decision. Is he going to have grace on this country, or is he done? Because if he's done, judgment's coming. It's going to get worse. But if you know Christ, you're fine. So you always have hope. So. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. One quick thing, and this is a big topic, and I don't know if, Michael Flynn, I texted him this week and I said, let me ask you about this decision, because, so in January, Biden drafted some amendments to our contract with the World Health Organization, okay? Those will be voted on in May 22nd, okay, which is basically giving sovereignty to them to lock this country down at any time. They don't have to have criteria. They don't have to have anything. They can just say, lock down Oklahoma, and they'll send in the UN police or whatever. So it's a big decision. And I asked him, what do we do? And he's like, get on a mountaintop and scream about it. And here I talked about the economy, right? But I mean, this is a big issue. So everybody needs to get educated on it, call people that have influence, and try to get this thing shut down. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Great job.